Was the mass shooting in Las Vegas preventable at all? Can copycat crimes be expected? Questions for Alex del Carmen, who heads up the School of Criminology, Criminal Justice, and Strategic Studies at Tarleton State University in Fort Worth, Texas. He also works with police departments from coast to coast on training and tactics. Alex, seems authorities got a little break since one report said the shooter set off a smoke detector in his room from the smoke from the shooting.
Yeah, they got lucky, and at the same time, training kicks in as well, Gordon. As you know, law enforcement professionals are trained to be able to spot, where the shooters are coming from, and obviously at that point they have to go into training mode to figure out how they're going to break through the doors and how they're going to be, what they're going to find. Is it going to be booby-trapped or not? So there's a lot of it that goes on. And it happens so quickly that most people don't realize how fast it is.
Man, I mean, can you prevent something like this?
It's really hard to do that. I mean, at the end of the day, people have been talking about metal detectors and this and the other. And a lot of the people that were actually at the concert were patted down. They did have security out there, but obviously the victims were secured. The offender was not. Other than having presidential detail type of security where you have Secret Service basically go through each building and each door and each possible venue close to the event. I mean, there's really no way to prevent it from happening.
It does seem like Las Vegas PD and the first responders getting a lot of credit here.
As they should. They did a terrific job being able to, this is happening. Imagine, this is a live scene. There are people dead on the ground. There are people running away from the shooter. You really don't know what you're facing, what type of caliber of weaponry this person has. This person is being helped by others or not, whether that is terrorism. So all of these questions go on all at the same time. Within a matter of minutes, these law enforcement officers, these professionals have to make a decision of exactly how this is going to go down and what they're able and capable of doing. So, yeah, they do deserve a lot of credit.
Man, I can't imagine what that was like for some of these cops and sheriff's deputies on the scene. It's dark. This guy's shooting from 32 floors up. You generally have no idea where the bullets are coming from. And some of these witnesses are saying, man, we're all lying down on the ground taking cover, and these guys are just standing there like targets, searching for where the bullets are originating.
Yeah, for the past few years, everyone's been quick at pointing fingers about police officers doing bad things and the other, but at the end of the day, this is what makes them heroes, right? So when everybody runs away from a scene, police officers rush towards it in order to be able to protect and save lives. And so a lot of kudos go to them, and quite honestly, this guy would have taken out a lot more people. As catastrophic and as awful as it was that over 50 people died and over 400 people have been injured. At the end of the day, if law enforcement had not responded, who knows what that body count would have been like.
We're speaking with Alex del Carmen. He's the executive director of the School of Criminology, Criminal Justice, and Strategic Studies at Tarleton State University in Fort Worth, Texas. We're talking about the mass shooting in Las Vegas. Do you suspect or do you tell when you're doing some training that there could be a copycat in the midst following this?
There's no question, and we worry about that. And that's what we try not to glorify the person, the offender. In this case, I refuse to mention his name. I refuse to talk about his profile because many people actually, they see this and they're, oh, yeah, this guy is getting all kinds of attention, so we're going to go out there and do something similar. And that is what we fear in the law enforcement profession is individuals that want to copycat it. They want to also go down in history as being the biggest offender that crime has seen in its history of the U.S. And so we do concern ourselves with that. And of course, in the back of my mind, as you know, we've talked in your program before about terrorism. I worry that terrorists are also going to learn from this, and they're going to see how vulnerable we are, and perhaps plan their next attack the same way.
Yeah, obviously, this is not the first music event because we saw this happen in Manchester. Are there lessons here for law enforcement or for anybody?
Yeah, I don't know that we know what those lessons are at this point because this is so fresh and so preliminary, and situation on the ground right now is fluid in the sense that, crime scene is still being secured. They were, as a few hours ago, still having individuals that are being hospitalized as a result of this. And so, but I imagine that at some point, law enforcement folks in Las Vegas and other parts of the U.S., the FBI included, are going to sit down and they're going to start remapping their response time, how they were able to channel through communication and how they were able to respond so quickly. And my guess is there will be a lot of good things worthy of replicating. There may be others that they are willing and perhaps going to consider changing at some point.
Thanks. Alex del Carmen heads up the School of Criminology, Criminal Justice, and Strategic Studies at Tarleton State University.